in the heart of the Europe. Behind the great river Danube, till the Tatra Mountains, is the little country, with rich history and long traditions. Slovakia. But the beginning was hard, and the way to the present Slovakia was long. In 1926 the stone-cutter Kolomenkoki found a part of Neanderthal skull filled with travertine and granavs. This Neanderthal man lived there 105,000 years ago. Homo sapiens reached Europe 43,000 years ago and successively replaced Neanderthals. Then European Neanderthals died out between 41,000 and 39,000 years ago. Venus of Mraveni is a small prehistoric female figurine made of mammoth tusk ivory by modern humans. Venus of Hadik is a Neolithic figurine of a sitting goddess of fertility found by archaeologists in locations Amsek. The largest urban agglomeration of the Bronze Age Europe was found in Verbal. At this time was Verbal one of the biggest cities in the world, larger than famous Mycenae and Troy in Greece. In Slovakia were also few Roman settlements. The most famous is Jurulata, which was a part of Limes Romanus. The Roman inscription was found in settlement Lagirișo. At the 5th and 6th century started the Great Migration of Slavs, ancestors of Slovaks, to Europe. In the 7th century, the Frankish merchant Samo, who supported the Slavs fighting with Avars, became the ruler of first known Slav state in Central Europe, now called Samo's Empire. In the 9th century there was created the Principality of Nitra, group of settlements developed around the capital city Nitra led by ruler Pribina. Then in 833 ruler of Principality of Moravia, Majmir I, conquered Principality of Nitra and created Great Moravia, the first joint state of the Slavonic tribes, that became later known as Czechs and Slovaks. The capital city became Mikulčice. Duke Rastislav wanted to be independent from Frankish Empire in the case of spreading the Christianity. And the dream came true. In 863 Saint Methodius and Saint Cyril were sent by the Byzantine Emperor, Michael III, to spread Christianity in Old Slavic language and teach new Slavic priests. In order of that they created Glagolitic script used for writing in Old Slavic language. The Great Moravia reached the best ages during the rule of Dukes Svatopluk. After his death, the Great Moravia fell to pieces. In 9th century started the Great Migration of Hungarians to Europe. In the tribal council was chosen Arpad, son of Almos, by dukes to be a leader of Hungarian tribes, and he got title Grand Prince. More than 100 years after the arrival of Hungarians to Europe, descendant of Grand Prince Arpad, Grand Prince Vajka accepted Christianity and after coronation became the first king, well known as Stephen I. The Principality of Nitra became a part of Kingdom of Hungary for more than 900 years. From 1001 was the Principality of Nitra the residency of successors to the throne till the end of the rule of King Ladislaus I. King Koloman I then extinguished this tradition. The aristocracy were not very satisfied with their responsibilities and laws. Because of that in 1222, King Andrew II created the Golden Bull, which significantly impaired the king's authority. During the rule of King Bela IV, Mongol invasion reached the Kingdom of Hungary and defeated the royal army. The Mongolians destroyed a lot of settlements and then came back to their Khanate. The death of last king from Arpad dynasty, Andrew III, signified the end of the dynasty. In 1308, Charles Robert became the new ruler, but most territories remained out of royal control. King Charles Robert decided to defeat the oligarchs, and rehabilitate the authority and power of kings. The strongest oligarch was Matthew Ksak from Trenčín. In 1312 near the Rozhanovs began the heavy battle for future between oligarchs and the king. After the heavy loss the king won the battle. King Charles refused to confirm the Golden Bull and reorganize the kingdom. He opened a gold mine and mint in Kremnica and began the minting of gold in Florence. His son, Louis I, continued in the work of his father. In 1369 Košice was the first city in the world granted by coat of arms. King Matthias Corvinus with his political, martial and economical dispositions raised up the kingdom to a strong superpower. In 1465 he built the university in Bratislava. In 16th century lived in Livoka Master Pavel, who created the highest wooden altar in the world. In the 16th century began the Ottoman Empire expansion to the Kingdom of Hungary. In 1526 at the famous Battle of Mohacs, Ottoman Empire heavily defeated the Royal Army. The Ottoman Empire then conquered the central part of Kingdom. Transylvania became an Ottoman vassal and the remaining part of the kingdom was under the rule of Habsburg dynasty. In 1536 Bratislava became the coronation town, capital city and the seat of archbishops for more than 200 years. All the anti-Habsburg revolts were led by the nobility of the Kingdom of Hungary during the period 1604 to year 1711. 6 revolts were led by nobility. One of revolts, which was led by Gabriel Bethlen, later became the part of 30 Years' War. In 1775 Maria Theresa reformed education. All children from ages of 6 to 12 were required to attend school. In 1773 Maurice Benioffsky led the expedition to Madagascar, as French colonel, to set up a French colony there. In 1776 he became a king of Madagascar. He tried to help George Washington in American War of Independence. In 18th century the Slovak national movement began. In 1787, Anton Bernalak codified a Slovak literary language, on the dialect from western Slovakia. Despite of that Lutheranite intellectuals continued to use Slovakized form of Czech language. The national movement reached the top in 1843. Ludovicter developed a literal language, based on the dialect from central Slovakia and after several reforms, it remains the official Slovak language. In 1914, Gavrilo Princip, member of Young Bosnia, assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife in Sarajevo and that led to outbreak of the First World War. At the end of the war, Austria-Hungary dissolved, and the Prague National Committee proclaimed an independent Republic of Czechoslovakia. The new state was the result of effort from the side of important politician Thomas Garrigue-Masaryk, Edvard Benison, general of French army, Slovak diplomat and politician Milan Rastislav Stefanik. In 1939 Germany began the Second World War. During this war was created the Slovak state. Slovak nation was not satisfied with situation in the state and with occupation. Because of that in 1944, Slovaks supported by Czechs began the Slovak national uprising. Czechoslovakia was restored in 1945. In 1946 the Communists won the elections and Czechoslovakia became a satellite of Soviet Union. It was interrupted by reformist Alexander Dubček in 1968 but Soviet Union invaded Czechoslovakia and stayed here till the 1989. In 1989 began the Velvet Revolution and it led to downfall of communists. 2 years after that the Visegrad Group was founded by presidents of Hungary, Poland, and Czechoslovakia. In 1993 Czechoslovakia fell to 2 sovereign democratic states, Slovak and Czech Republic. After Genesis Slovakia became a member of the United Nations. In 2004 Slovakia joined the NATO and then the European Union. In 2009 Slovakia accepted a new currency, Euro. Christianity is predominant religion in Slovakia. More than 4,000 churches are now here. The biggest church is Cathedral of St. Elizabeth in Košice, the eastest Gothic cathedral in Europe. The most important is the Cathedral of St. Martin in Bratislava, where the kings were crowned. Slovakia is unique by wooden churches. 9 of them, constructed by wood, without nails, have been listed as UNESCO heritage. The important Baroque sites are Cathedral in Nitra, the monastery in Jisov and the Calvary in Banska Štiavnica. 10 villages in Slovakia have a status of a folk architecture reservations. Every village give us the view how looked the life in the Slovak villages in the past. One of them Vukalinek has been listed as a UNESCO World Heritage. Bratislava is the capital city with about 500,000 inhabitants. It's one of the most expanding capitals in Europe. The metropolis of eastern Slovakia, Košice, is a regional center of industry, science and culture with about more than 250,000 inhabitants. The Slovakia's third largest city is Prešov with a character of regional center. Žilina is center of native Slovak craft, culture and manufacturing. Banská Bystrica is living heritage of Central Slovakia's mining culture and Slovak national uprising. Nitra is Slovakia's historical and agricultural center. Trnava with its churches and long history is also called Slovak Rome. Trenčan's skyline is perhaps Slovakia's most striking. In the past was Trenčan called City of Fashion. At the present time are more than 120 castles in Slovakia. Three of them, Nitra Castle, Spiš Castle and Pumsti Castle, are in the top 15 of largest castles in the world. New science research confirmed that the largest castle is Nitra, and with great Moravian origins it's one of the oldest castles in Slovakia. Very important is also Bratislava Castle, which was the capital castle of Kingdom of Hungary after the Ottoman invasion. Spiš Castle is the sixth biggest in the world and it has been listed as a UNESCO World Heritage. The most visited is romantic castle Bojnice with cave under the castle. Trenčín Castle is famous mostly for oligarch Matthew Chakin's story about Omar and Fatima. Castle Orava became a popular place for film producers. Slovakia has more traditional foods. The Slovak national food is porridge. The most famous is brines of halušky, consist of potato dumplings with brines of sheep cheese and bacon. Popular food is also pierogi, consists of filled pockets made from dough, cooked in boiling water. Very popular cake is skaliki trdelnik, which got the protected geographical indication by the EU. Slovak folklore regularly taps into its traditions to represent its culture. From music and dance, to handicrafts and festivals, folk traditions continue from generation to generation. Slovak folk music has strong regional roots which makes for distinct sounds among groups. Lušnica and Sluk are two professional ensembles that feature in prominent folk festivals. The traditional music instrument is fuiara. The most popular sports in Slovakia are football and ice hockey. Slovak national hockey team won 4 medals from World Championships and in 2002 became the world champion. The Slovak national football team reached the top in the previous 7 years. In 2010 Slovakia participated in World and in 2016 in European Championship. The canoe slalom is the most successful sport because Slovakia won more than 50 medals from World Championships and 14 Olympic medals. Cycling became popular because of Peter Sagan, who won the World Championships for 2 times. Joseph Morgash contributed to wireless telegraphy and helped develop mobile communication and first wireless transmission of human voice. Štefan Banic was a Slovak inventor who constructed the first prototype of a parachute, and in 1913. Jan Bajío was a Slovak inventor who made the first plan of helicopter in the world, in 1894. Jan Vilcek is a biomedical scientist who invented drug infliximab, approved for the treatment of Crohn's disease, psoriasis or rheumatoid arthritis. Štefan Klin is a Slovak inventor. He invented the first flying car in the world, in 2013. Joseph Maximilian Percival was a Slovak mathematician, inventor and physicist who improved the objective lenses for photography. In Slovakia were founded 9 national parks, each famous with its own untouched nature. The oldest national park is Hitatra's, best known with its alpine peaks. It's the most visited park and heavily frequented because of its skiing areas. The largest national park is Loditras. More than 7,000 caves are in Slovakia, but only 13 are enabled. The most famous is Ochtinska Eriganet Cave, which is one of the 5 Eriganet caves in the world. Dobsonska Ice Cave is one of the most important ice caves in the world. You can find here also 2 world rarities. The first, Zidny Ostrov, is the biggest river island in Europe. And the second, Hurleni Geyser, is one of the 8 geysers like this, in the whole world. The biggest river is Danube and the longest river is Va.
Moldova and surroundings. Our country has lots to offer. Nature shows her gems and places that people can visit to discover their country, and new places that accompany various stories and histories. We have many beautiful places in our surrounding area, and we have decided to introduce some of them and talk to you about them. Moldava nad Bodvou. Our town Moldava lies on the river Bodva in the eastern part of Slovakia. It has a population of about 11,000 people. The first mention of our town dates back to 1255, but the town had existed long before that. It's part of the historic wine route and has been the center of the region for its good geographical position. There are a few historical monuments from different eras. The blacksmith forge and museum was built in the 19th century. It has an authentic forge with open fire. There is a weaving construction and a stable with agricultural tools and machines. The wine cellar and museum was built in one of the many cellars used for fruit and wine storage. In the 14th century there was a large underground cellar system, most of which is still preserved. The Sojka Gate is a copy of the wooden gate that survived a big town fire in 1795. Most of the town buildings burned in this fire, but this gate was the only thing that remained standing. The chapel of Saint Roch was built on the slope in the northern part of the town in honor of Saint Roch and in memory of the victims who died in the cholera epidemics. The first of the two big epidemics broke out in the town in 1831, and 212 residents died within 6 weeks. Every year a mass is held at the chapel in commemoration of the victims who died in the epidemics. Moldava Cave. It is 3.5 kilometers long and is one of the longest caves in Slovakia. It is also known as the largest underground cave labyrinth in Slovakia. At the time of Tatars attacks, it served as a hospital and shelter. There were remains of bones and ceramics. It is not accessible to people because some visitors got lost there in the past. Košice is the second biggest city of Slovakia and the cultural, economic and industrial center of eastern Slovakia. It is the seat of the Košice region and the Košice self-governing region. Košice was the first settlement in Europe that was granted its own coat of arms. The city has a well-preserved historical center, which is the largest among Slovak towns. There are many heritage-protected buildings in Gothic, Renaissance, Baroque and Art Nouveau styles. The largest church in the whole Slovakia can be found here, the Gothic-style St. Elizabeth's Cathedral. The long main street lined with aristocratic palaces, churches and townsfolk's houses is a pedestrian zone full of shops and coffees and restaurants. Turňa Castle. The aristocratic family of Turňanský built the castle at the turn of the 13th and 14th centuries. In spite of its fortifications reinforced in 16th century, it was taken by the Turks in 1652. It fell in ruins after the fire in 1848. During the Second World War, German soldiers used it as a fortification, where they were shooting the road from and later they were hiding there. In the end, it was besieged by the Soviet artillery. There is a legend that the spirit of the jealous castle lady, who killed a young nobleman and blamed her sister of the murder, appears on the castle walls. High waterfalls. The brook of High is about 14 kilometers long and includes 10 waterfalls. The road of the waterfalls was built by Italian soldiers during the First World War. The highest waterfall is 7 meters high. There is a story about this waterfall. It says there was a cave at this waterfall that led to hell. In a beautiful nature and quiet environment, you can have a picnic and a barbecue on marketplaces and enjoy your free time. Angel High. The small village of High can boast a statue of a 10 meters angel with a broken wing. It is located in the municipal cemetery near the church. But this is not an ordinary statue. This statue was used as a prop in the American film Behind the Enemy Lines with Gene Hackman and Owen Wilson in 2000. After the filming, the American film company donated the statue to the village as a memory of the filming. Some footage in the movie was shot is just around High. Jasov Cave. It belongs to the oldest known caves in Slovakia and the first cave opened to public in 1846. The upper parts had been known since the 13th century, and the inscription from 1452, which records the victory of Jan Jiskra from Brandýs, is the oldest written mention in Slovak caves. A number of old inscriptions and drawings have been preserved, and also bones of cave bear and cave hyena were found there and a dagger, which is part of the Turkish expansion. Bats are natural inhabitants of the cave. Today, part of the cave is made available to the public and serves as a curative environment for allergic people. Jasov Cloister. The first written reference about Jasov comes from 1171, during the reign of the Agrian Earl Koloman, when a Premonstrant cloister was built here. During the Turkish invasion, the village and the unfinished cloister were destroyed. The cloister played an important role in internal political fights in Ugria. The new expansion happened thanks to Ondrej Sauberer, who became an administrator and later the first prior in the 18th century. The cloister was completely rebuilt and now it's a church with two towers in the middle. Inside there are beautiful fresco paintings and a library. Medzeo blacksmith mill. The first mention about Medzeo comes from 1272, when it was stated as a mining village. Since 1376, when the first free mills were built, Medzeo has become famous for its steel tools, especially those used for handy agricultural work. The blacksmith tradition still exists here. More than 100 blacksmith watermills with over 200 forgeries worked on the Bodva and its inflows, as well as in the Šugov Valley at the end of the 19th century. Zádiel Valley. It is one of the most beautiful places in our region and is one of the most visited areas. It was created by a brook called Blatnica. It is 3.3 kilometers long and it is the longest valley in Slovakia. Rock cliffs have a height about 300 meters and the valley is only 10 meters wide. It is a place for tourists and for those who want to relax in nature.
Life path of our school started in previous century. School was opened in 1954 as high school with 11 years of school attending. There were classes with Slovak and also with Hungarian teaching language. First class graduated in 1957 and in 1958 school got its own building as we know it nowadays. Since 1973, our school had just 4 years of school attending and in 1994 also 8 years of school attending. 19th of September 1998, after winning several competitions, was school justly renamed to Gymnázium Štefana Moysesa. In these years, school has around 200 students and 17 teachers to teach them. For those students, there are many of rooms and classrooms to take classes in. Information Technology Classroom. This classroom is divided into two parts. First part is where students have information technology lesson. This room is equipped with computers. The second part is where students can spend their free time with classmates playing modern board games. Geography classroom. Geography classroom is much bigger than the room where we can play games, so sometimes we just take games here. But other times, and most of the time, this room is used by geography teachers on geography lessons. Biology classroom. This classroom is equipped with many bones, stones, flowers, biological posters, and many other objects used for teaching biology. Multimedia classroom. Physics, multimedia, art and culture are the main lessons which are taught in here, but sometimes also math, Slovak language, and other languages. Chemistry lab. Chemistry lab is used just for chemistry, especially for chemical experiments. Students are not allowed to enter this room without the teacher because plenty of the dangerous chemicals are kept in here. Reading room. This room is made just by the students' hands. Students painted the walls and made this room the comfortable zone for relaxing, reading books, and sometimes sleeping. Library. In our school library you can find many books in Slovak, English and German language. And also many genres, science fictions, novels, encyclopedias and many others. Creative worlds. The school has two creative worlds. Our students can escape the reality here and become famous artists. With our art teacher, they make fun projects as paintings part of the school, furniture, rooms, walls. For the little ones, she always has prepared some fun art activity and created masterpieces we always hang somewhere in a school. In one school year, school goes to 3 school trips. First one is in autumn, second one is in winter, and the third one is in summer. Autumn school trip is sightseeing trip. Teachers usually pick the town and we go there for a few days. So far we've been in Prague, Krakow, Bratislava, Orava and many others. Summer school trip is something like a vacation. We usually pick a hotel and we stay there for a few days. We take some walks in nature, do sports, play board games and sometimes also paint. In winter we go skiing. We are trying to pick some other place every year, so we can see new places.